There are those who speak and those who listen. But every so often, someone shows up who does both with uncommon purpose and an open notebook in hand. Nicole Banks is a power connector, a woman whose network doesn't just span industries, it sparks movements. For more than 2 decades, she's solved problems others run from, built what others said couldn't be done, and highlighted the wisdom of giants, one page at a time. This is Nicole's Business Notebook, a curated circle of brilliance, a behind-the-scenes pass to the strategies, stories, and secrets shared by the experts she calls friends. It's not just a show, it's a blueprint for those bold enough to build. So settle in, because the notebook is open.
Hi, it's Nicole Banks with Nicole's Business Notebook, where I bring together my business friends so that we can all learn from them so that we can do better business together. So this week, I have Christopher Amato on the show. He is a consummate professional we're going to learn all about today, and his love of the stage and being in front of a microphone and his impact. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome, 100%. So as we normally start with these type of things, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've had quite a long entrepreneurial career, probably for the last 30 years or so. I started my first business in the mid-'90s doing home theater surround sound installation, back when the little satellite dishes came out and surround sound was like the hot new thing that you could have in your house.
Amazing.
So I started that company in the early 90s and transitioned into owning cell phone stores. I had 6 locations there. So ultimately, I've had 9 businesses in my career. Some of them been smaller, some of them very big operations, things of that nature. One of my last biggest ventures, I owned a manufacturing company in California.
Oh.
So we did skincare products, hair care products, body products. We were an FDA certified licensed facility to do over-the-counter drugs. So I had about an 80,000 square foot facility. We'd have anywhere from 100 to 125 employees with the temps on site, 9 production lines, 18 compounding tanks to be able to make huge batches of shampoo, lotions, conditioners, skincare products, body products, that type of thing.
Wow. So a lot of entrepreneurship in the history.
Yes.
So in that, what do you think other entrepreneurs could learn from you having so many different businesses?
Well, there's a lot of things that the main thing is business owners understand their project, their service that they offer, their widget that they make, whatever the case is. But the business side of business is something that most entrepreneurs really struggle with. So, you go to school or you learn a trade, whatever the case is, you become good at your craft. But running the business side of the business is something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yep, that's why I've been employed for as long as I have, kind of as a business consultant and fixer, is, the business owners are passionate about what they do or their expertise or what they create. I've seen that myself in business. So, what made you so successful? Is it because you knew those business sides of things? Did you learn them as you went? Did you go to school?
Well, I've got a bachelor's in finance, MBA focused in business management. I worked with the largest international privately held consulting firm in North America for 6 years. And they literally flew me all over the country tearing apart businesses. So with my tenure there, literally I tore apart over 1,000 companies, top to bottom, looking at their processes, procedures, systems, controls, financial reporting, KPIs, owners' mentalities and how they run their company, those types of things. So being able to get in and see all of these different types of industries, again, recognizing that the business side of business is really 99% the same across the board. If I have to go into a home builder and teach them how to build a home, then there's a bigger problem that I can tackle. But, if it's a matter of understanding how to increase the efficiency, the productivity, their process, procedures, their KPIs, those types of things, it's something that a lot of businesses don't recognize. A lot of times I use an analogy of a water balloon. So if you take a small water balloon and you put some water in it, that's your business now growing and expanding. Well, every one of the inefficiencies in the business is like taking a needle and poking a tiny little hole in that water balloon.
Yep.
Then we've got a little bit of water leaking out. Well, the challenge comes as you start to grow, the more water you put into that balloon, it starts to expand.
Right.
Well, what happens to the size of the holes? They expand along with it.
Yep.
Well, then we get into a race to put more in the top than what's leaking out the bottom.
Right.
And a lot of business owners' mindset is more sales equals more profit. And
Not
that
exactly.
is the farthest from the truth.
Yeah.
Again, with that balloon analogy, if we're dumping too much in with these inefficiencies in the company, it starts to swell.
The holes are going to rip open.
They rip open. Now we're bleeding out
Right.
as a business, wondering why. We know how to build a house. We know how to manufacture a widget. We know how to offer our service or our product, whatever that is. But that race seems to be something that most business owners wind up failing in, and that's where they wind up losing their business. So that's in a lot of areas how I've actually worked with a lot of businesses and business owners, being able to help them be able to do that. But there's a huge side of that I didn't recognize as a business owner, as a CEO. And I've got a number of accolades. I won, when I had my manufacturing company, a couple of CEO of the Year awards from different publications in California. 2017, I actually won the International Exporter of the Year award from the Small Business Administration for increasing export business 300%.
Wow.
But what I didn't recognize or wasn't willing to recognize is that same balloon analogy goes for the individual CEO, the individual president, the individual business owner as an individual person.
Right.
So if we don't recognize some of the things that are going on inside of us and address those things, they're just like that water balloon with the little holes in there. The more responsibility we get, the more pressure we get as a CEO or a business owner, the bigger the operation gets, our own insecurities, our own internal flaws wind up showing up.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I wound up having a massive embezzlement situation happen in 2018.
Oh, no.
It completely destroyed the company. So I went from doing international trade shows in Dubai and Italy and Hong Kong and South Korea and all over the world, doing these shows,
Wow.
winning these awards and getting all these accolades, to where literally everything was stripped from me almost overnight. So we
Wow.
lost 65% of the business almost overnight.
That's nuts.
And when that type of thing happens and you're left with nothing but yourself, boy, I tell you what, there's a mirror that stares right back at you, that you either choose to address some things or you choose to hide.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So you wake up the next morning, you have that mirror. I mean, what did that teach you? What did you learn from that experience?
Well, what I found is that my internal foundation, my internal knowing who I was actually wrapped up in what I did, not who I was as a person. So Christopher Amato as an individual, who was that man?
Right.
You know, for many years, I identified as a father and a husband. I identified as an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And all of those things that's where I got my identity. That's how I got my personal value, was through what I did and how I served and the things that I was accomplishing. So unfortunately, I wound up going through a divorce, wound up losing the status of husband, strained with the children, father, losing the business, all of those types of things all at once put me into a massive identity crisis. Like, I don't know who I am anymore.
Wow.
And, you know, unfortunately, when you get into those situations, and a lot of people can talk a lot of things, but motivation and determination and tenacity will get you to a level of success. But without having that internal fortitude, without really doing the inner work to find out who you are and what's going on, and a lot of that comes from childhood, raising, upbringing, situations that happened. And I found there for a long time, I felt like I was the sole guy who had all these things happen to me, and
Right.
you know, I was just all alone. But I found through the years that it's really, I'm not alone. most people actually have a life story that wasn't always roses. They have hurts and wounds and issues and traumas from parents, from siblings, from relationships, from business ventures, from partners, all of these different things. And they wind up establishing a belief system in us, right or wrong. And that belief system, if it's really aligned with who you are and it's tied to what you do, and you take away all of that, you really are left with nothing.
Right. No, I love that. The way that, entrepreneurs are so focused on the business and the growth and the sales and the expectations and going after the awards and accolades and all of that.
Yeah.
I myself have really tied my value to my work and the impact I create and the business that I create and the whole bit. So to hear someone go through the struggle, come out on the other side and have to relearn those things, I restarted my life at 37. I left a difficult divorce and moved states away and restarted my life, and it was one of those sort of instances where you have to go back and look at the details and look at the personal sort of foundation that you've built for yourself. And I tried to distance myself from my work and my impact and all of that, and okay, well, who am I? Who's Nicole? Who's
Right.
The kid from back in the day and who I am now, and I'm divorced. Like, I was a good little Catholic girl. I never thought that would happen.
Right.
So going through that, obviously a different set of circumstances, but it's that rewiring and that tenacity that you have to really kind of build on yourself to be successful. So I think we definitely have that in common.
And I find that there's a lot of people that have those scenarios.
Yep.
A lot of people don't like to talk about it. One, because it's very personal, obviously. Yeah. And it hurts. There's pain that goes along with that. There's wounds that have happened as a result. And unfortunately, what I find is we get into these coping mechanisms to where literally we Band-Aid cancer within us.
Yep.
So those pains, those hurts, those wounds, those fears, insecurities, self-worth, self-value, all of that that gets stripped away, we just try to Band-Aid it. And that's what I tried to do for the first couple of years after that. It was like, oh, well, I'll be fine. I'll just Band-Aid it and keep pushing through. I've got enough self-motivation that I can do this. Well, then I tried to do a few different things, and things were there. And, regardless of what your belief system is, you call it God, you call it universe, higher power, there was something in me that said, no, we need to fix some things first. And after I realized that I was going down a dark hole spiral and lost that motivation because it just wasn't, I couldn't pull it up within myself anymore. It just wasn't there.
Yeah.
The foundation wasn't established and the building had been destroyed.
Right.
So now how do you rebuild?
Right.
So through COVID, it got to a very bad place because trying to find work during COVID with all the craziness of the pandemic, I'd put out 500 resumes looking for different opportunities and nothing was happening. And everything that I seemed to try to start just didn't have the momentum or the energy behind it.
Right.
And then I finally started realizing that everything is energy and vibration. My energy is my currency.
Yep.
And I found that I had no energy left.
Wow.
So not only was I financially broke,
Right.
but my energy was broke as well because
Yeah.
I wasn't refilling that and I wasn't reestablishing the foundation. So I started doing a real deep dive into my personal self. So I wound up getting a position with a firm doing business valuations and financial analysis, and something that I can kind of do in my sleep.
Yeah.
I've tore apart over 10,000 financial statements and tax
Right.
returns. So it very
For you,
simple.
it's like a Tuesday.
It is. It's just a very simple thing for me. No big deal. Some business
Right.
owners are like, I can't even read this thing. What are you talking about?
Right.
But fundamentally, that's just something I could do in my sleep.
Yeah.
So I kind of hid out there and then just started doing a deep dive into my personal work and really looking in the mirror. And what I saw, I didn't like at first. There was a lot of ugliness there. There was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of insecurities. A lot of feelings of rejection and abandonment from my parents being divorced when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
And at 50 years old at the time, I'm like, well, what am I dealing with? Come on. That was when I was 4.
Right.
I got over that. It's no big deal. But really what I found, it was just a Band-Aid.
Yep.
that I put on it to hide from everybody else that I had an issue and that I had a wound.
Yep.
And fortunately, I've had some good friends, some mentors come into my life that really helped me understand how to look into that mirror and begin to address the wounded inner child, if you will,
Yeah.
that was within me. And realizing that it was going to be okay, but I had to reparent that inner child.
Yes.
I had to redevelop certain aspects of things and who I was and what I was capable of doing as a man, not as an entrepreneur, not as a businessman, not as somebody who has tenacity and drive and motivation, just as Christopher Amato,
Yep.
the man.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, I went through 2 years of therapy before I got through to the divorce, and, you know, taking that time to really do the same thing. You know, I had the gumption and the motivation and, you know, the sheer force of will that, you know, I was going to get anything done, and realizing that even that sheer force and that being so scared to fail or to slow down was because of those wounds and because of the Band-Aids that I had built for myself. And so I went through and did the inner child work, and I'm like, this is some foofy bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
It's like, I'm not into all this woo-woo.
Exactly.
Yeah, when I first started that was my first word. I'm not into the woo-woo.
Yep. But really going through and, you know, looking at different, you know, little snapshots of your life and, you know, in this specific moment, what if I was given what I needed? What if I was given the love or the support or the Band-Aid or the, you know, the high five or the, you know, the motivation or whatever it was, and then realizing how much that would have affected that part of my life.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't have those issues moving forward or didn't need those Band-Aids. So, I mean, I believe it's a little woo-woo still, but it is effective. I will give it that.
Well, quite frankly, I am fully submersed into the woo-woo now.
Okay.
Initially, that was my first, you know, ego-driven response is,
Yep.
I don't need this. You know, that's for people who are weak. But then I started looking at it, and I realized I was weak.
Wow.
I didn't have the strength internally to stand. I always had to have the crutch of the business,
Yep.
the accolade, the award,
Yep.
the recognition, whatever that was, because I've been into public speaking. I've done over 1,000 presentations, and I love public speaking. So, hey, if I can get up on stage and put on the act, then nobody will know that I'm hurting on the inside or that I have fears or insecurities. I can do that.
Right.
So I took a long break from that and realized that I needed to really address a lot of those things. And what's very interesting is through the channels and the people that I wound up meeting, they held me by the hand and took me down through some of these things that was a lot different than what I would consider traditional counseling. Counseling has its place, and I don't want to say anything negative about that. If people gain benefit from it, then fantastic. But doing true inner work, what's also known as like shadow work, being able to sit in places and reparent those dynamics as opposed to just rehashing them. Because I find that a lot of that type of work is just rehashing the old stuff.
Right.
And it brings up the old wounds, and there's really not a modality to be able to really bring the healing in.
Right.
It continues to Band-Aid it in just a bigger, brighter, better quality Band-Aid, if you will.
Right.
It wasn't taking me to the place that was requiring me to sit with myself and actually do that inner healing work. So now I still kind of look back at myself and go, I can't believe I'm doing some of these things because I thought it was just all woo-woo,
Right.
spiritual energy,
Right.
whatever, it's la, whatever it was. But now, going through the different things that I've gone through and being through the programs that I've gone through and actually having a really solid support of different men that have been through similar things and have helped me through coaching and different dynamics, that's something now that I feel like I'm finally at a point to where through my own healing, my voice needs to be heard again. And not from the ego perspective. I'm the man, I'm the guy in front of the camera with a microphone. It's coming from a different place of healing in myself and a desire and a passion to use my business acumen to be able to help CEOs, entrepreneurs, business people really grow and develop as an individual, as well as that CEO and president, or whatever their title is.
I love that. First I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable and honest, and obviously this is a testament to your growth and, what you're able to do. And then, the other part is, men, it's easier for me to go all woo-woo. They're like, oh, you're a girl, it'll be great. Yeah. But, speaking up about it and your experience and that whole thing takes courage. So thank you for being so vulnerable and open with your story and your growth and where you are now.
Well, masculinity, I think, has been... the definition has been perverted over the last few decades of what is a masculine man. Mm-hmm. Masculine men aren't allowed to have emotions. They have to be the strong anchor. They have to be that cornerstone of the family, the cornerstone of the business. Yep. I'm the president. I'm the CEO. I'm the face of the company. Mm-hmm. I have to be strong. I can't show weakness. I can't show vulnerability. Yep. And of course, there's a measure of truth to that, to be confident in those positions. But behind the scenes and what we do when the doors are closed and the people aren't looking at us really is something that, again, it's like that water balloon. You can deny it all you want. You can choose to say that it's not there or it won't affect me. But as the weight and the pressure increases that balloon size, those hurts and wounds expand. So now I'm in a place to where really my story is really going to be helping those individuals. I'm in the process of writing a book now.
Very exciting.
So the title is The Soul of a CEO.
Love it.
And understanding that there's masculine and feminine within all of us, whether you're biologically male or female. Mm-hmm. And understanding how to balance those two sides and become complete within that it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to have feelings, but it's not okay to allow those feelings to control my actions.
Correct.
So being able to respond to a situation from a position of power and healing, mm-hmm. as opposed to reacting from a place of hurts and wounds and traumas from the past, experiences and the different dynamics that are there, yep. to build sustained, long-lasting success. Because there's a lot of people out there. I gained success without doing that healing. Mm-hmm. By band-aiding and doing those things.
Right.
But when the rubber met the road and all hell came at me and the rug's pulled out from underneath you, you're cut off at the knees, whatever analogy you want to use, where are you left? And when you've got that working with you in combination with the business acumen and the other dynamics, it really does open up the door for long-term financial success. So understanding that my energy is currency now.
Yep.
So in where I spend my time, where I spend my energy, and another thing that I say to myself pretty much daily, it's not my roller coaster to ride. So there's always going to be an emotional pull, whether yep. it's friends, family, business situations, circumstances that come up that try to invoke that emotional charge. Oh mm-hmm. my God, I got to take care of this, or oh, the sky is falling, or oh, my family member is doing this, or there's things to where I can be empathetic, I can support, but it's not my emotional roller coaster to ride. And seeing that roller coaster come, and it always stop right for you and open the door and say, hey, you want to jump on? Yeah. And making the choice daily to not get on that roller coaster is a huge part of being able to sustain that energy that you have, because you've got a limited amount. So you build it up daily through whatever practices you have, prayer, meditation, reading books, mm-hmm. Informational pieces, whatever the case is, podcasts.
Good vibes.
Good vibes. All of that type of thing, to build it up. But then how do we spend it daily? Yep. Where do we put that energy? Where do we put that effort? What kind of return on investment are we getting for that energy? If I'm investing my time into something, that is a form of currency. My energy Absolutely. Is that currency. What kind of return on investment am I getting for that?
Yep.
Should I be looking for a return on investment in there? Should I be engaging to that level? And really being able to understand relatively quickly if it's my roller coaster to ride or if it's something that I just should close the door and let it pass.
Yep.
Because otherwise we get on these high highs and these low lows And it's just a constant up and down. And the highs are awesome. Man, I had this happen. I had that happen. And wow, here we go. And I'm riding the roller coaster. But then all of a sudden the big hill comes, and then boom, we start to go down the hill.
Yep.
And it's not much of a thrill ride, but I'm screaming my head off
Right.
because I am now emotionally charged and attached to the situation.
Right.
But that's where I lose my power. Every time I allow my emotions to take control, to react to a situation, to get on that roller coaster, I'm giving up my power.
I think that's a great reminder.
Keeping that power is something that if we can remind ourselves daily, and I like visuals, so the balloon analogy,
Yep.
It's something I can see in my head. The roller coaster, and I do love roller coasters, so it's
me
like
too.
I take my kids out to, Magic Mountain, Six Flags, that type of thing, and we'd ride all the coasters and have a bunch of different fun, and the thrill and that type of thing is wonderful. But that you do that for a particular reason. You don't want your life to be that way.
Right.
You don't want to have those high highs and low lows. Let's keep things more like a wave that we can actually ride
And sustain.
and stay in a sustainable place in that flow.
I love that.
So that's a lot of my message that I'm trying to communicate today, and the things that I'm continuing to work on myself. I don't think any of us ever arrive
Right.
to this wonderful place
Enlightenment.
of enlightenment that that now I'm so spiritual that I don't ever want to be so spiritual that I have no earthly good.
Right.
So fundamentally, it's again creating that balance and realizing that if we get into the flow of what the universe is bringing to us and the various things that are there, the flow isn't designed to hurt us. It's there, God wants us to be blessed.
Yeah.
He wants us to be prosperous. He wants us to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we connect and engage with that energy, when we connect and engage with that and trust in that flow, man, it's hard giving up the control.
It's amazing.
It's like white knuckling, and the white knuckling I do now isn't the roller coaster ride, it's the letting go. It's trusting the flow. It's
Correct.
trusting that the universe has my best interest in mind, that everything does work for my good,
Right.
that I am highly blessed and favored. And it's good to be the
Yeah,
king.
you are.
It's good to be the king.
Indeed. That's amazing.
But again, it's coming from a place of strength internally, not a place of ego
Right.
saying, look at me,
Correct.
look how great I am. And getting
Definitely a
that,
transition, yeah.
getting that identity from those things.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for the self-improvement and the personal journey. As we, kind of bring this to a close, you have obviously a lot of experience. You worked with a lot of different companies. We've talked about knowing your business and knowing, kind of how to run the business in addition to what they actually do, build the widget, that whole thing. But if you had a magic wand and were able to poof, and all business owners knew one thing from Christopher, what would you share?
It's okay to not have every answer. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's just how we choose to go through the healing, to utilize that as a catalyst as opposed to the obstacle or the roadblock that tries to stop us and keep us back. And not allowing that ego of all of our accolades and everything that we've accomplished, the awards, the recognition, whatever the case may be, to cloud what is truly going on the inside of us. Because the reality of it is, when you go through the healing, it's the most freeing thing that you could ever have.
Agreed.
And that place of
1,000%.
freedom comes real power. And when you start to experience that level of power, you recognize that all of the other stuff on the surface that we called power, that I thought I was the man type of thing, was just a fraction of what really can be when we operate from that place.
Amazing. Great wisdom. And you can always tell when somebody's been through it because the wisdom is just that much sharper and that much more meaningful. So again, thank you so much for your openness, your vulnerability, sharing your story. So excited to see the book when it comes out and all the speaking and stuff that you have coming in. So definitely, we'll have you, all your information in the bottom so they can get a hold of you and, that whole thing. So thank you again so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Awesome. Great. So this is another episode of Nicole's Business Notebook, where we are bringing together my business friends to share the wisdom, the vulnerability, the openness, so that we can all do better business together. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Nicole's Business Notebook. Subscribe and follow for more tips, insider secrets, and hard-earned wisdom so that we can all do better business together. See you next time.